Every year at this time, there always seems to be a controversy about nativity scenes. Just recently, a Satanic church tried to set up their own nativity scene, which created quite a stir. But now, what does this have to do with us as believers, and particularly those of us who are trying to walk according to the Torah? Well, in this episode of the Weekly Scroll, we're going to examine this issue and see what lessons we can learn as we're trying to pursue righteousness.
If you enjoy watching this and other great content from Jacob's Tent, download the Jacob's Tent app today. Gain access to the latest videos, teachings, and exclusive content all in one location. Stay connected and up to date with everything happening in the tent with the Jacob's Tent app, available on the App Store, Google Play, or wherever you find your apps.
Well, welcome to this episode of the Weekly Scroll, everyone. Now, some might think that our story this week might be better suited for the end of October when people are dressing up as ghouls and goblins in search of sugary treats. But as I've said many times before, the tares aren't content to remain in their own field, so to speak. They want to infiltrate every nook and cranny of society every day. Case in point, in Concord, New Hampshire, a satanic nativity display, as it was described in the reports, was erected on city property near the New Hampshire State Capitol building. This came about because Democratic State Representative Ellen Reed suggested to the Satanic Temple that they should put up the display alongside of a Catholic group's nativity scene. Now, as it turns out, Reed said that she's a member of the Satanic Temple, although she has not participated in any of its meetings or events. Nevertheless, it was her view that the scene of baby Jesus should not be the only decoration there on the state capitol grounds. And as you might imagine, this was met with a lot of resistance, including a lot of pushback from public officials, most notably the mayor of Concord. But in an effort to avoid a legal dispute over First Amendment issues, the Concord City Council approved the organization's permit to show the display. In a statement, the city said that they were forced to choose between banning all holiday displays or allowing the Satanic Temple statue. They said, after reviewing its legal options, the city ultimately decided to continue the policy of allowing unattended displays at City Plaza during this holiday season and to allow the statue. It is anticipated that the City Council will review next year whether permits for unattended holiday displays should be allowed. Now, Concord Mayor Byron Champlin said, I oppose the permit because I believe the request was made not in the interest of promoting religious equity, but in order to drive an anti-religious political agenda. He continued on and said, some on social media have celebrated the Satanic Temple's display as a victory for religious pluralism and a reflection of our growing diversity as a community. I disagree with this. This is about an out-of-state organization cynically promoting its national agenda at the expense of the Concord community. Now, State Representative Reed rebuked the mayor in an interview saying, I think it's the narrow-mindedness of the mayor who can't seem to wrap his head around that this represents a large percentage of the community and its beliefs. And what are those beliefs exactly, Mrs. Reed or Miss Reed? According to its website, the Satanic Temple's mission is, quote, to encourage benevolence and empathy, reject tyrannical authority, advocate practical common sense, oppose injustice, and undertake noble pursuits. Now, on the surface, all of that sounds almost good. But embedded within these words are, I believe anyway, an evil intent. And remember, in the beginning, the serpent used words that sounded good in order to introduce evil and to promote rebellion against God. For instance, take note of the so-called church's statement to reject tyrannical authority. And generally speaking, most freedom-loving people would reject a tyrant's rule. But where the Satanic Church and other such rebels are concerned, the issue is this. They consider the Creator, the Almighty, with His laws and boundaries in regard to good and evil, they consider Him to be a tyrant. According to their website, we have fought for the abolition of corporal punishment in public schools, applied for equal representation when religious installations are placed on public property, provided religious exemption and legal protection against laws that unscientifically restrict people's reproductive autonomy, organized clubs alongside other religious after-school clubs in schools besieged by proselytizing organizations, churches, ministries, and engaged in other advocacy in accordance with our tenets. Now, here is my interpretation of their tenets: no boundaries, no restrictions, no consequences. And furthermore, they intend, as they have stated, to vigorously promote their beliefs in every forum, which brings me to this. This past summer, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis introduced an initiative to integrate more religious instruction into his state's public school system under a volunteer school chaplain program. And in response to that, members of the Satanic Temple said that they were ready to serve as, quote, volunteer chaplains. One Satanic spokesperson said that they would be, quote, happy to participate. Now, DeSantis replied, in a manner of speaking, that's not going to happen. Speaking to a group of concerned citizens, the governor said this: some have said that if you do a school chaplain program, that somehow you're going to have Satanists running around in all our schools. We're not playing those games in Florida. That is not a religion. That is not qualified to be able to participate in this. Unfortunately, however, the Satanic Church is recognized as a 501c3 tax-exempt church, a status that has been affirmed by federal judges. In other words, they could launch a legal challenge because our leaders, in their infinite wisdom, have left the people exposed to such nonsense. In fact, after-school Satan clubs, that's what they're called, which are hosted by the Satanic Temple, have shown up at schools around the country, including in states like Tennessee, Virginia, Pennsylvania. Unbelievable. Now, there has been a lot of widespread pushback from parents, but nonetheless, school boards across the country are capitulating to the threat of costly litigation, and probably because they know they can't count on righteous judges to hear the matter and to rule in a righteous manner. In other words, our government has allowed voices such as these to gain a foothold in our culture, to be able to speak to our children in school, and to leave an indelible impression upon their consciousness every time they put up one of these satanic emblems or send someone in drag to read in a public library. And all these things that openly promote rebellion, that's what they're putting before our children, and is what is being tolerated in the town square. Just last month, the Tulsa, Oklahoma City Council began its meeting with a prayer that many, including the governor of Oklahoma, were calling satanic. It happened when so-called priestess Amy McAdams, who is a pagan, gave the invocation by praying to Medusa, a character from Greek mythology who has snakes for hair, and, she turns people into stone because she's mad all the time. City Councilor Krista Patrick, who is also a pagan, said her religion is not satanic, but paganism. As it turns out, though, her pagan religion advocates for some of the same goals that is listed by the Satanic Temple. McAdams said, quote, I think where a lot of people get stuck is with the word serpent. Many Christians equate any reference to snakes or serpents directly with Satan, but I am referencing the serpents that make up Medusa's hair. This is classical mythology, she said, and before Christianity, snakes were ancient symbols of feminine divinity, healing, and transformation. Interesting take, Miss McAdams. But here's another take. Before there was classical mythology, there was a garden, there was a woman who was deceived by a snake. The point is, folks, that across the country, standards of righteousness have been lowered to the point that scenes such as this play out every day. And unless we do take a stand, it's just going to continue to worsen. Now, as far as the Satanic Nativity display in New Hampshire, it would seem that some unknown citizens decided to take the matter into their own hands, and they destroyed the original display, which, by the way, was a statue of the Baphomet, a deity and a cultic symbol that has yellow eyes, and they portrayed it as holding an apple of knowledge in one hand, very interesting, and a bouquet of purple lilacs, which is New Hampshire's state flower, in the other, because they just want to get along with everybody. They just want to coexist. At the foot of this statue was a granite table inscribed with the Satanic Church's 7 fundamental tenets. Now, Within an hour of its unveiling, it was knocked over and damaged. 3 days later, it was vandalized again, and then it was damaged beyond repair. The Baphomet was broken, the tablet was illegible, it was missing pieces, and so Satanic Temple representatives had to go out and repair the display, then they reinstalled it. The next night, it was vandalized again, and that led the Satanic Temple to have to restore it a second time. It kind of reminds me of Dagon, of the god of the Philistines. Kept falling over and kept falling over. We'll see. Now, this response from the public has prompted State Representative Miss Reed, remember her, to condemn those who stood against this, saying, "I think the vandalism and the hatefulness shouldn't go without a response," adding that the Satanic Temple, which was, by the way, based in Salem, Massachusetts, oddly enough, probably should, she says, get to erect a new display in its place. And then she added, "The people are supposedly doing this in the name of Christianity, a religion that professes faith and love and peace. Their holiday season is about love, peace, and goodwill to others. And in the middle of that, they're reacting violently without caring about other people's opinions." I would comment on that, but I'll keep going here. This kind of battle is going on all over the country. There is, in fact, a similar fight going on in Minnesota and other states. That's in Minnesota and St. Paul. Members of the Satanic Temple there are wanting to have a holiday display at the State House in Minnesota. So these things go on all the time. Now, the issue that I'm bringing forward today really isn't about that you and I need to protect or promote nativity scenes during this season. That's not what I'm saying. And by the way, I have heard some believers support the removal of nativity scenes from the public square at this time of year simply because of their position on Christmas's pagan affiliations. But let's not let righteous zeal and indignation blind us to the bigger picture. Satanists, pagans, rebels, they're not just gunning for nativity scenes. They aren't just looking for equal time in city council meetings. They are coming after the hearts and minds of people. And I would argue they are particularly interested in targeting the younger generation, your children, my children, our grandchildren. As I've said many times before, tares, they don't wish to coexist with the wheat. They don't want to just get along. They don't want to live in harmony and peace. They want to steal, kill, and ultimately destroy the wheat, thus infesting the field with rebellion, chaos, and destruction. They're not waging war on Christmas. It's the Christ they want to displace. As it's written, "The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, 'Let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us.'" Essentially, this passage summarizes the mindset and intention of Satanists, pagans, rebels of every stripe. They don't want God telling them what to do and what not to do. That's what they mean when they say, "Let us break their bonds in pieces. Let us cast away their cords," those things that keep us from doing everything and anything we want to do. And they come against the Lord and against his anointed, which is literally against his Messiah. So again, this week's episode is not about Christmas. It's not about council meetings. It's not about nativity scenes per se. It's not those things that these people want to destroy. They want to destroy the very notion that there is a God, that there are boundaries, and consequently, there are ramifications for breaking those boundaries. To dispel the idea that there is a God in the minds of others, so they believe, will rid society of what they call tyrannical restrictions and promote equity, get rid of the cords and the bonds, in other words. They believe it will bring peace and all these other nice words they like to invoke. But in reality, it's the same tactic and it's the same agenda initiated in the very beginning when the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Now, as far as I'm concerned, the irony of all this is, according to Satanists, they do not worship Satan because in their mind there is no such thing as Satan or the supernatural. In fact, according to its website, the Satanic Temple is non-theistic, and they say this: "The Satanic Temple believes that religion can and should be divorced from superstition. As such, we do not promote a belief in a personal Satan. Satan is a symbol of the eternal rebel in opposition to arbitrary authority, forever defending personal sovereignty, even in the face of insurmountable odds. In other words, the very thing that Satan believes in. Here's what comes to mind, though, when I read this particular statement. The wicked boasts of his heart's desire. He blesses the greedy and renounces the Lord. The wicked in his proud countenance does not seek God. God is in none of his thoughts. Satanists might say that they don't believe in Satan, but they at the same time proudly advertise they are rebels, that they see themselves as God. And that is exactly what Satan has done throughout history and what he's tried to get us to believe about ourselves. The reality is this: when we reject the voice of God, we open the door to another voice. Now, sometimes that voice, maybe most of the times that voice, is our own, and we listen to our voice. But in the end, the point is, we will serve someone. And so what the Satanist acknowledges intellectually is a moot point. What they do shines a light on what they actually believe. And remember, rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. And pray tell, how does promoting rebellion enhance the quality of life or someone's education? How does it make the child a better person? It doesn't. But the adversary, using these smooth words, has always been successful in convincing us that somehow or another this will make life better. This really isn't about nativity scenes and satanic displays. This is about how the adversary operates and what he sets out to do. Again, to steal, to kill, and to destroy. It's about the wicked one being able to slither into a space, sometimes even a sacred space, whether it's a garden, maybe even a sanctuary. But he wants to slither in, and he wants to be there long enough to get someone to listen to his seductive words. And from the beginning, his tactics have not changed, and they're the same today. Now, I'm fully aware that a town square in New Hampshire, a council meeting in Oklahoma, a school in Florida, that's not on the same level as the garden or the house of God in terms of sacredness. I understand that. But I would argue that the principle that we're discussing here remains the same. And so it is important that the people of God be very diligent, at the very least, to stand guard in that place he's given us responsibility over, our homes, our congregations. And so let's not buy into the smooth and flattering words the adversary and his minions like to use in order to set their snare. As Paul said, we're to be mindful of Satan's devices, lest he should take advantage of us. So we need to keep Satan out of the sanctuary. We need to keep him out of all of these sacred spaces. And perhaps if we did that, we might be better positioned to successfully keep him out of the chambers of government and out of the town square.
If you enjoyed these videos and value our content here at Jacob's Tent, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell and never miss the latest info and insights from Bill and the team. Most of all, you can help us spread the message. By sharing these videos with others, you'll be helping to grow our interactive community together.